Chapter 34 The Triforce of Wisdom. This was it, Prince Facade thought as he and Link readied their weapons. After everything they had all been through, it was finally time to defeat the enemy and save the princess, and after seeing the condition that his beloved Zelda was in, he wanted to defeat the enemy now more than ever. What kind of man would take such a beautiful and kind young woman as her and treat her in this way? One that needed a sword rammed down his throat, that was the kind. So they attacked, quickly advancing on Ganondorf, and then sparks flew the first time their weapons clashed. With as big and muscular as Ganondorf was, he was equally agile, using his trident to block both of their attacks, and being strong enough to shove the two heroes backwards when they attempted to bash him with their shields. Once they were staggered, the sorcerer gathered an energy sphere in his hand and tossed it at Link. The young man raised his small shield to protect himself, but when the sphere collided with it, the resulting explosion shattered the shield as Link was thrown backwards. He crashed to the floor and rolled backward to stop as his sword slid from his hands, and even Facade had been knocked down by the force of it. "Pathetic," Ganondorf said as the prince got up. "How can the two of you together be so worthless when Aghanim held his own against me by himself?" "I'll show you, worthless!" the prince yelled, raising his weapon. Facade attacked again, bringing his silver blade down hard on the trident, only to have it deflected, and needing to use his shield to keep from getting stabbed. For all of his bad qualities, Ganondorf was an incredible fighter, and where he thought to be able to overwhelm the sorcerer, it was now taking all of the prince's skill just to stay in the fight as they moved around the throne room. Although heavily motivated by what his opponent had done to Zelda, he couldn't help feeling a little afraid, as well as frustrated, that his attacks were doing nothing, while each one of Ganondorf's staggered him. "Something the matter, your highness?" the sorcerer chuckled after staggering him again. "You aren't getting tired already, are you, Facade? I hope not, because it would surely break Zelda's heart if I killed you, and she had to be my slave forever." The anger grew again, and with renewed energy, Facade made an incredibly powerful overhead swing, bringing his blade down onto the trident and forcing Ganondorf back a step. But then the sorcerer easily shoved him backwards before raising his leg and booting him right in the shield. The prince fell onto his back, but before he could do anything, Ganondorf raised the trident, and Facade screamed as the three spearheads were stabbed right into the shoulder of his sword arm. "Facade!" Zelda screamed, tears running down her cheeks as she pulled on her chains. "Let him go!" "Let him go? Whatever for?" Ganondorf laughed, twisting the blades, causing another scream. "He's having a wonderful time down there, aren't you?" The sorcerer's words were interrupted by movement as Link jumped at him while bringing the Master Sword down, not on Ganondorf but on the trident. Sparks flew as the metal weapon was sliced in half, and the young man immediately went for another attack, but the sorcerer vanished, reappearing long enough to pick up Facade's sword, and then vanishing again. This time he reappeared behind him with a quick slash that made Link cry out as the tip of the blade tore across his back. He stumbled forward, turning around while swinging his blade, but Ganondorf vanished again, reappearing off to the side with a low swing that hit Link's leg. The pattern kept repeating, Ganondorf constantly vanishing and reappearing just long enough to cut him again, and again, until the young man dropped his sword and fell to his knees. The next time Ganondorf reappeared, he kicked him in the face, knocking him onto his back, and he was about to finish him off when a fireball came from Aghanim's hand. It struck the sorcerer in the face, making him groan as he was knocked off balance, and then it was Facade's turn to act again. Having ripped the head of the trident out of his shoulder, the prince pulled himself to his feet and stabbed it into Ganondorf's back as hard as he could, twisting it in order to hear him scream. The scream was cut off a second later, though, when Link picked up the Master Sword and rammed it into the sorcerer's stomach all the way to the hilt. Both Facade and Link pulled the weapons out of him, making the sorcerer fall to his knees, and then Facade reclaimed his sword. "It's over, Gargamel," Facade groaned, trying to wield his sword with his offhand. "And now you die!" The two heroes pulled back the swords, and were just about to chop off Ganondorf's head when they screamed as they were struck by two red bolts of lightning from the Triforce of Power. Like when it had happened to Aghanim, they were thrown across the room, their weapons flying out of their hands as they crashed to the floor. A second bolt struck them as well, immobilizing them while a beam of energy struck Ganondorf. Except this one didn't hurt him. instead slowly healing his injuries. "A valiant effort, young heroes," the Red Triforce said. "Unfortunately, my plans for Hyrule do not include any of you emerging triumphant. Ganondorf may be a useless idiot, but having him both marry Zelda and rule this land is also the best way to cause them to suffer." "And why would you want to do that?" a soft female voice replied. "Did you learn nothing from your banishment?" Everyone turned and looked as Miranda walked into the room, followed by Impa and the completed Triforce of Wisdom. The beam that was healing Ganondorf stopped a moment later, as did the ones hurting Link and Facade, leaving none of them in a very good shape as the Triforce was carried closer. "Look at the destruction you have wrought, Triforce of Power," the Green Triforce continued. "This is exactly why the royal family of Hyrule hid you away. You caused nothing but pain back then, and now, hundreds of years later, you are still doing the same thing. I know that you are hurt and angry for what has been done to you, but somewhere deep down you know that you brought it upon yourself." "On myself?" the Red Triforce asked. "I did not choose to be buried under tons of rock, nor did I choose to be left there for hundreds of years by an ungrateful family who did not even remember me. The royal family of this land has already made their judgment, and my only option is to make them suffer until they realize how wrong they were." "We already know that," Zelda exclaimed. "It was a mistake to lock you away like that. Now we are paying for it. Please, Triforce of Power, look around you and understand that you have already been punishing us this whole time. You have sat there and watched me suffer for weeks, and Miranda and I have both begged you for forgiveness. Everything is up to you now, Triforce of Power. Please come home with us." Silence filled the chamber as everyone waited to hear the Triforce of Power's decision, and Facade hoped that it would be the right one, since he was no longer in any condition to fight. Looking around the room, he saw that Aghanim was doing just as badly, leaving it all down to Link and Miranda if the battle resumed. "No, don't listen to her," Ganondorf argued. "Not after everything they've done to you. We had a plan to conquer this kingdom and enslave the royal family, don't you remember?" "I am no longer sure," the Red Triforce said. "I have felt nothing but anger for so long. But now that I am forced to hesitate and think everything through, Triforce of Wisdom, I just do not know." "Then do nothing," the Green Triforce replied. "Allow them to sort this whole mess out by themselves, and then you will know that the path of evil and hatred can only lead to destruction." "No, Triforce, they are lying to you!" Ganondorf yelled as he got up. "But fine, if killing the lot of them is the only way to make you regain your senses, then I will take care of them by myself." With magical energy gathering around his body, the sorcerer's remaining wounds began to close, while the broken trident vanished, reappearing whole again in his hands a moment later. But while this was going on, Miranda ran over to Zelda and quickly used the skeleton key to unlock her chains like she had done once before. The two girls ran over to the wounded men and helped each one to their feet, helping them to walk out of the chamber as Impa carried the Triforce of Wisdom. "Link!" Facade called, removing his ring. "Take this!" He tossed it to Link, who quickly put it on, and the result was his green clothes turning blue, and hopefully it would be enough to protect him from Ganondorf. The prince also left his shield for him, which Link picked up before the girls walked him and Aghanim out of the chamber. "Oh, Facade, you are so brave," Zelda said, kissing him on the cheek. "I knew you would come for me, I just knew it." "Of course I came," the prince replied, trying to ignore the pain. "I love you, Zelda." "And I love you, Aghanim," Miranda added as she kissed him on the cheek as well. "But as soon as I get you out of here, I'm going to help Link." Facade's thoughts returned to the young man that he now called brother, and the prince felt horrible for not being able to help him any longer against Ganondorf. Miranda was capable, though, and hopefully she would be able to get back to him in time to help. He was sure that Link could do it, though. He just knew it. And he hoped that he was right as they moved toward the entrance of Spectacle Rock.